Look at that. It said "Murder My Sweet."
Oh, you did it correctly. You did the title card right.
I changed things because we were rocketing towards disaster.
It wasn't working, and we fixed it.
Yeah. We
Fantastic.
pulled this one out.
That's
We
great.
rescued ourselves and our viewers.
We're gonna have a hell of a conversation about that.
Yes, we are. We're gonna have a big conversation about that. But before we even get to that, I want to talk about how I was taken to school this week by you. I got taken to school.
Oh, I'd love to hear this.
Well, we were talking about the show. For those of you who are watching or listening, my brother Anthony and I were talking about the show or something, and he said something to me about like, well, when you listen back to it, and I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, when you listen back to the show and you start thinking about this, and I said, what are you talking about? And Tony said to me, you don't listen to the show? And I'm like, no, I've got things to do with my life.
No, I said the show. I don't have to listen to it.
I had to live through it. I had to be there while it was happening. Yeah. Why would I listen back to it? And you educated me, and I listened to the show, and not to pat ourselves on the back, but I laughed. I thought it was kind of funny.
It's a funny show. I like to listen to it. I'm glad that that now there are 2 downloads for the show.
That's the big thing about it. I think if you listen to it and I listen to it, we almost double our audience
right away, immediately. Yeah.
So it's going to have a drastic impact on our stats.
It's a win-win. So I'm perfectly ready. In the middle of the show, if you just want to have a little break and give me notes and criticize what I'm doing and work it out, that's fine.
No, I think you're really good at this. You know what you're doing. I'm going to pay more attention to what you do now.
Disaster ahead.
If I can learn something.
Disaster ahead.
Yeah.
Stick to your guns. We each have our own superpower, and we'll bring that as we have.
My superpowers, unfortunately, are all off the air.
Okay. But think we can discuss them, though.
My superpower apparently is not picking the next movie we're going to watch, and and maybe not listening to you when you say, I don't know, I'm kind of scared. I'm a little frightened about this. But before we get into all of that, how was your week? And also, I have a little bone to pick with you.
Great. I can't wait. Let's start with the good news. Then the week was fine. I'm kind of starting work. I'm an adjunct professor, as you know, at a school here in the city.
Yes,
an acting academy, and I'm proud to work there. I'm just not saying it because I don't want to get into legal trouble for any reason of any kind.
You can talk about what you're doing. You're allowed.
Can you name your school on the?
Yeah, I teach at Chapman Dodge College of Film and Media Arts at Chapman University.
Just, when I say Princeton, it sounds really highfalutin.
But I do have to make clear that the views expressed on this show are not those of Chapman University, nor are they endorsed by Chapman University. When I'm speaking on this show, I'm speaking only as some schmuck who did some movies and TV shows once.
Okay. So I'm an adjunct professor at Pace University, and it's a wonderful school, and we've had a really crazy year, as you have at your school, with teaching online and learning how to do that and trying to keep classes teaching acting online. It's a crazy thing. So Amelia and I both teach there part-time, and I'm gearing up, but my part of it comes this time of year, and I'm just really busy with video and rehearsals and stuff. So it's been a good week, but busy.
I really don't know how you do it, because I do not teach acting at the university. I teach film production and some film theory, storytelling, theory type classes, and my classes aren't. The content and presentation isn't any different online than it is in person. I'm giving
Right.
information and showing film clips, and we're talking about them, and we're going over the drafts of their scripts. And
there's more of a syllabus probably that's easier to follow and makes sense, because acting doesn't make sense. You can't really.
No, you have to be in the acting and the only acting teaching I do now is an online class in how to self-tape.
Right.
Which is, perfect for online. It's like made for online.
Yeah. And there's been a big boom in that whole industry and thing in this year, of course, too.
But, people have contacted me. Are you teaching any scene study classes online where people can't be in the same room or touch each other or kiss or slap or poke?
You can't slap each other in the show either, really. So that's similar to professional.
I'm talking about me. My students generally, I say
slap you.
And they slap me.
Well, that's totally acceptable.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like I think you have to break it. I think we've broken it down in some components. So what might have been the scene study and working on the scene, we do that. And granted, Amelia, it really is the acting teacher here. I work there directing scenes and videos and stuff for their video shoots. But when I listen to Amelia teach and when we have taught together there, it's more about just analysis, like deepening your text, like deepening and then applying what you learn in text analysis and learning what you learn about the character through dialogue, and then this the beginnings of how to build that into character. But that's kind of where it has to stop, because you can't really get to performance. I mean, it's just you're in your den, no matter what is happening. You're in your den in fleece pants, probably. Yeah, and that's not good for character.
You can work on the opening scene from Source Code between Jake Gyllenhaal and Vera
Farmiga. Yeah, right. That's all on
that scene, because that entire scene takes place like this, talking.
Yeah, you could do that. What other things you could do? You could do the scene with the little girl in 2001 with Kuber's daughter.
Right. Yeah.
That would be a good acting scene.
Yep.
And then that Tom Hardy movie he did Alone in a Car.
Yeah. And any scene in a movie where people are on, you could do Henry Fonda and the Russian premier on the phone in Failsafe.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just in my car. He's having this conversation in his car.
Yeah, basically. So let's get to the bone picking.
Fantastic. Sir. Okay. Oh, I was gonna try to trick you into not picking the bone
with you. Okay,
go ahead.
Here's the bone I want to pick with you. Were it not for Mom's problem using her podcast app, I would not know your brother, who is interested in your work and the stuff you got going on.
Yeah.
I would not know about this thing that you have going on with Playwright Horizon, in which apparently there's some singing and stuff happening.
Yes.
And I think we need to tell the people about it.
I'd love to. I'd love to. Okay. Well, I think I mentioned this, but it was like a bit ago, and it was during dark COVID times when I recorded the show.
Right.
And things like this weren't of a lot of interest to anybody. It was just like, oh, you did a thing? Okay, great. Are you alive? Yeah. Okay, great. And then it took them a long time to do post-production on it. So, I just been busy doing other things, and then got surprised by the launch date of it. So what it is my really dear friend, Trish Harnato, who's a collaborator on a bunch of things, including the Sundance short.
The thing that you did that went to Sundance. Mr. Busier during COVID than
I've been lucky, and she's just really, really great. She wrote this play before COVID happened, and they were going to do a production of it. They had workshopped it and everything, and then COVID, and they couldn't do it. And so instead of just sitting around, she and her team created a radio theater version of it that they could record on now. And Playwrights Horizons loved the pilot, and they produced it and are like legit putting it out as like their theater. And it's a theater piece. It's really cool. And there is some musical things in it. There are many surprises. It is crazy and surreal and one of the most fun things I've ever done. It's just a blast.
Does it have an actual name so that if somebody were looking for it after hearing you talk about it, they could?
It does. It's called the MS Phoenix Rising, and it's produced
by Playwrights Horizon, which for people who are listening who may not know, Playwrights Horizon is a big deal in theater in New York.
They are. You can find them on, like, I'm really only on Instagram, and you can find them at PHNYC, Playwrights Horizons NYC. And the links to where to listen to the show for free are on there. You can find them there. Or you can probably at this point just Google the MX Phoenix Rising. And it might come up. But anyway,
that's great. And then you can just Venmo me the $20 you said you'd give me for bringing all of this.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then I'll hit up Trish and Jacob because they owe me for this. So it's a chain.
Okay.
That's thank you for bringing that up. And I'm excited. It's a 6-parter, so it's like a very
I don't have that much time.
You have time to watch.
No, because I have 30 episodes of this show I have to listen to apparently now.
You got a lot of catching up to do.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's our show for the week.
Excellent. Thank you for coming, everybody. Thank you.
I guess we have a movie, unless there's anything else we have to cover.
No, I don't think so. How about you? I mean, is anything notable this week that you want to promote or sing about or dance about? No.
I do, but so I think it's time to talk about a movie that we are not going to talk about.
We are going to talk about it. We're going to talk about so many things tonight.
With the movie that we're not going to talk about, we're only going to not talk about the first like 20, 30 minutes of it because that's all I could sit through before I texted Tony and I said, have you watched Farewell, My Lovely yet? And he texted me back, no, why? And I texted him, we got to talk.
A serious surgery happened.
It was bad.
Yeah. Well, okay. So we had planned to do, this is our final noir out of the noir series we've done. We've done like 4 or 5 noir movies, and this was going to be our final one. And we were going to end with, Farewell, My Lovely, which neither of us had seen and is a noir movie that was made in the 70s, but it starring Robert Mitchum.
I did see it when it came out.
Okay. Oh, cool. But I'd never seen it.
I didn't know anything.
I didn't know that. But so it's got Robert Mitchum in it, who, for those, and if anyone's listening and doesn't know a lot about noir, Robert Mitchum is kind of synonymous with noir. Like, as an actor, he embodies noir almost more than any actor. So having him play Philip Marlowe in this movie was an exciting idea, and we thought we'd see it, but I had never heard much about it. And we took the gamble, and then we switched up because Matthew didn't like the movie, what he'd seen, and we switched it up to Murder, My Sweet, which is in fact the same story. It's based on the same book and is the same plot, exactly the same characters, more or less.
Yep.
And we covered that movie instead. But what ended up happening was Matthew saw Farewell, My Lovely. I saw Murder, My Sweet. We both saw that. Then I got curious and I watched Farewell, My Lovely. And then we both watched at least some of The Big Sleep.
I watched the whole Big Sleep today. I
didn't have time for the whole thing, but I've seen it many times.
All of Farewell, My Lovely.
Almost all of it.
Yeah.
It was like late, like 2:30 in the morning when I passed out.
I only watched some of it, but I watched all of The Big Sleep.
Why? I gotta ask you. What I mean, I had a different experience with Farewell My Lovely than you, and I need
Really?
to know why you had such a violent reaction to it.
Oh, really? Because so you didn't hate it.
I could have hung. I'm going to go back and finish it, and I found it completely fascinating, and some of it I really liked.
I wanted to kill myself and then them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that is extremely strong. Extremely strong. I thought
I
I
hated
thought
the way it looked from the first shot. I hated the way it looked. I felt like Robert Mitchum was sleepwalking through the movie. Um, I when you hold up the one of these moose is not like the other.
I'll give you that.
You know, the moose in Murder My Sweet, I thought that guy was spectacular. My heart went out to him. I believed
Yeah,
him.
but we're not at Murder My Sweet yet, are we? We're
No,
talking about
okay,
why
we're
you
talking
stopped
about
watching Farewell My Lovely.
Farewell, My Lovely.
Because you weren't comparing it to Murder My Sweet at that point.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't. Why did I hate it so much? I didn't buy any of it. I didn't buy
You
any of
hated
it.
it. You just hated it.
I
You
hate,
just it made
well,
you mad. You
it
hated it.
made me mad. I thought they didn't they neither embraced the old style nor made it something newer. I didn't, I felt like it was caught in this in between world. The scene with Sylvia Miles, I thought was painful and embarrassing. And I hated the way Los Angeles looked in it. I didn't feel like they created a real authentic look of any kind for the city, for the darkness and the grime, and then the oh I don't even know what to say. I'm, I felt I felt if there is an aspect, and we'll get into this, if there's an aspect to the character of Marlowe as that, because there's a lot of interesting writing about the character of Marlowe and existentialism and that detective. So if the purpose then of this movie was to make me personally experience existential dread, it succeeded on that level.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Wow. I mean, we've never like switched before. We've done 35 movies and we've never been like, yeah, can't do it. I got to switch it up. This is the first time that's happened.
It's never, yeah, that's not happened before.
Um,
And
no.
I didn't. The thing about Marlowe is that I feel like he's how to say this. I feel like he is this existential guy moving through the world on whatever mission he's on to find meaning and order in this meaningless, disordered universe and city that he lives in. So along with his sort of ennui and bitterness, there's also some kind of verve and drive, and I just felt like Mitchum was asleep, like he'd just gotten woken up from a nap and had to do a scene.
Arguably, that's Mitchum's thing. I mean, that's like
Which,
kind of
in
his
my
vibe.
mind, then just says that he was badly miscast in this. Because
Boy, okay.
if you look at, we haven't gotten to it yet, but when we get to what both Bogey and Powell did with this role,
We will talk about that.
Oh, okay, because
We will talk about that, particularly the latter.
Powell, who you
Yeah.
did not like, I'm gathering.
I enjoyed this movie a lot. For me,
here we go.
I could flip our feelings almost about that character completely. One of the, I mean, look, I know we're not really, we're going to talk a little bit about Farewell, My Lovely, because we both saw it and that was a thing. And
I saw 30 minutes of it.
But well, then you saw it. It's not like you're gonna. Although, did you miss Charlotte Rampling?
No, I did hear actually one of my favorite lines. I turned it off right after one of my favorite lines. Which was when he mentions about her legs, how great her legs are, or something like that, and she says, "Yeah, these damn things are always up around your neck." It's like, whoa,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And maybe I've just been in quarantine for too long, but that was when I turned it off.
I like her, so it was cool to see her and see her very young and so she was so fascinating looking. I don't know. I kind of liked.
He was also so much older than her that it skeeved me out. Although Bogey is that much older than McCall.
I think, look, I mean, we're talking about Robert Mitchum. So Robert Mitchum
he's 87 when he was 32.
Yeah, and he's also got a kind of sex appeal that I think I agree with you, but I might there are women out there who might be like, even when he was 75, that guy was amazing, and he was. I mean, he had an enormous amount of appeal to a certain kind of person.
Okay, for those who were on the podcast and not the YouTube, when Tony said something about Robert Mitchum having a certain kind of sex appeal, there was an expression on my face that I will try and create a photograph of and put up on the website.
When was the last time you saw a picture of Robert Mitchum when he was like 30?
When he was young, he would. Yeah, okay.
I mean, he was like, it was like if Cary Grant went to the Marine Corps and came out the other side, that's what you'd get. He's amazing, gorgeous, fantastic movie star, and I think he embodied, for me, he embodies noir arguably more and better than Bogart did. Although I'm a frickin' Bogart nut too, but Bogart was a lot of other things, and I guess this comes into a weird conversation because I feel like, I don't know. It's like, I know there may be textbook definitions of these things, but for me, Marlowe doesn't really feel like a noir character, and I'm my noir stuff that I like in noir is much more dark and bent and twisted than the Marlowe stuff. Marlowe is a gunslinger. He's a hero. He's like, a knight errant or a Ronin, like he's someone to aspire to be. And that's a quality that I find that's my favorite noir doesn't have anybody in it like that. You know what I mean? My favorite noir is about people that think they're that, but aren't, and just make terrible choices, and that everybody's compromised and everybody's awful. Those are the noirs that I find to be most interesting. And he's so kind of like, he doesn't have a really deep psychological component to him. I mean, compared to some other characters, but maybe all those detectives are kind of blank slates like that. But I don't know. I guess it's partly that he used to work for the DA's office and has this. It's like he's very idealistic somewhere and bitter about how it didn't go, but he's still idealistic. It's just not very noir.
Yeah, except he will he will take money from anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he takes money from Florian, not from Florian. Who does he take money from? He takes money from what are the names of he takes money from Moose, then he takes money from Marriott, then he takes money from Grail. It's like, okay, I'll work for this guy, now I'll work for this guy,
and he'll be your muscle if you want to hire him to be muscle. He'll do that too. He's
also ultimately only working for himself.
Sure, but that's also Ronin. That's also Gunslinger. That's just code, and I'm just talking about flavors of noir.
There's no code in noir.
There's different flavors, I guess, but the one that I like doesn't really is about moral decay to the point where it's like it's just where characters have really deep psychological problems and they make really bad choices based on really like awful, obsessions or things like that. Those movies fascinate me because I love the high melodrama of them. I really do.
Okay. But you see how, for me, one of the things I love about and bringing it back to Powell Bogey versus Mitchum is not to bring it up, but I'm going to. My novel that Zach Brandis is a descendant of Powell and Bogey. He's a descendant of Marlowe, in that he's willing to break the law, but not the code.
Yes, absolutely, and I can see that, and that's the tradition is fantastic, and it's, to me, like the delineation between detective thriller,
right,
and what I would call noir, because but it's just a distinction. Anyway, my whole point behind all this, and we'll talk more about your book, because I think it will tie into this, but the hero that Mitchum is in his movies smells a lot more like the kind of noir I like, and so him in this character, I liked it was like a deconstruction of all of it. It was like, you've seen the glamorized version, you've seen the old Hollywood version that's very romanticized, but to see a Marlowe who's the same guy, who's just at the end of his life, whose office is really crappy and it's really dingy, and it's kind of like it's sad, it's maudlin and sad, but it's made his desperation to keep going and doing what he had to do to pay rent and survive all the more palpable. So like I started to feel like the movie was more about the dying like that he's the last of his breed, and it's about like the last guy, the holdout, and it's more of a deconstruction of it. So it doesn't give you the things that you like about those movies at all, but I kind of liked that part of it. Not saying it's a really well made movie. I get you on that.
Okay.
So you're telling me that you would rather see Philip Marlowe that looks like he's really about ready to do a song and dance number at any time.
It was just
at any drop of a hat.
I did not feel that way about him.
I was like, before I knew the story,
just because Dick Powell was in Ants in His Pants of 1934 and Hey Hey in the Hayloft. Wait a minute. No, he wasn't. He wasn't in
with a little sex.
with a little sex in it. He was in. I have it written down here somewhere. Yes, he was in Gold Diggers of 1933. He was in Gold Diggers of 1935. He was in Gold Diggers of 1937. He was in Christmas in July, directed by one of our favorite directors, Preston Sturges.
Yeah.
Hence the jokes about Hey Hey in the Hayloft and Ants in His Pants of 1932 or whatever it was, which are references to Sturges' movie Sullivan's Travels. He was also married to June Allison and Joan Blondell. He had kind of a real Hollywood life, and then went on to produce the Dick Powell Playhouse or Dick Powell Theater on television. And all of these people who were in these movies were then later on the Dick Powell Playhouse and in his stuff. The guy had this, became a producer, had an amazing
won't
career.
argue any of it with you at all. I think it's an extraordinary move for his agents. I think his agents are incredible to have fought this hard to get him to play Marlowe. Now, actually, it was him. I mean, what is interesting, and as a person, he's incredible because he was a song and dance guy.
Yeah,
pretty much exclusively, had never done straight drama. And then got sick of it. He was like, I want to do real. I want to
tough guy.
I want to play tough guy. I want to be in a drama. And so they tried to get him. He lost out on one movie
to Fred McMurray.
Oh, for Double Indemnity.
For Double Indemnity.
And he was really bummed about it. And they regrouped and they said, well, what if you want to play Philip Marlowe?
Right.
And he said, I'll do it. And Edward Dmytryk, who directed Murder My Sweet, was apparently just really upset when he heard about this.
Who wasn't?
I don't.
Raymond Chandler.
Raymond Chandler, well, when he saw the movie, he wasn't. But, composers shouldn't conduct their own symphonies, and maybe writers should just write their books because
and stay out of it.
He won me over in a way because I was like, at first, I've always heard of Dick Powell. Who is he as an actor? Because I don't watch these musicals. So he shows up.
Now you want to see the musicals.
I'd like to see what he can do. I was like, there's two cardinal rules for me for Philip Marlowe or for the noir detective. Number one, you have to believe that they saw combat. They had to have been in a war of some kind.
I believe that he saw combat. But I believe that he saw combat the way that Harold Ramis might have seen combat in Stripes. When Harold Ramis said, if we ever see any real action, I'm going to be right behind you guys every step of the way.
Yeah. Okay. I
hear you on that.
And the other thing was that I was like, this is the last stop for Philip Marlowe, right? He tried the DA's office, right? He did running guns or running
for insubordination.
He's done a lot of stuff. And now here he is without a lot of money in LA. And this is kind of like, he doesn't have any other ideas. This is like it. And I think that casting a guy that looks like, if it doesn't work here, I'll just go to MGM and see if they need any dancers.
I'll be in Gold Diggers of 1939.
It'll be fine. I'm not going to sweat getting smashed around the face and neck. I'm just going to dance. I'll tell you, he takes a beating in this movie.
He does take a beating, man.
Wow.
Yeah. He
3 blackouts.
3 black. Well, yeah. The last one is just because of powder burns to his eyes, which I would imagine hurts a lot.
Yeah, but the iris goes down, and it's also like he says he spiraled out into darkness.
Spiraled out into darkness.
Yeah. Had you seen this before?
I had not seen this before. I had not seen him. I had not seen Hey Hey in the Hayloft.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know anything about him at all. And I felt like I was 7 years old and just discovered Baskin Robbins.
So he's your favorite flavor now.
Yeah. Well, just because, I love to enter a world of just, I don't like this world very much that we live in. So when I can see a movie that takes me into like, oh, there's a world where I understand these new rules, it makes me very happy.
Okay. He's a very positive, he's kind of like a throwback almost to like a William Powell kind of detective. He's got something very kind of like wry about him, where the Marlowe that you're used to anyway from Bogey is he's not really wry. He's pretty abrasive, and he's pretty like blunt, and he's
what
got witty
surprised
things
me,
to say, but he kind of says them like, "What are you going to do about it?"
right? But what surprised me watching The Big Sleep right after watching this was I didn't really remember The Big Sleep very well when I was watching this, and I thought, boy, Bogey's Marlowe is as far away from this Marlowe as you could possibly get. And then when I watched The Big Sleep, I was like, he's not that far away. I felt like
No.
the distance was more in one thing that you just said, is that the big difference between these two Marlowes, I felt, was not so much in the way the two actors were playing them, as that I believe that Bogey saw combat and I don't believe that Powell saw combat.
Yeah.
But I felt like you could have given, these could have been two actors who were given the same direction and trying to play the same guy, but one of them had been in combat and one of them, that was because Bogey has that scene in The Big Sleep where he goes into the
bookstore. Oh, it's hysterical.
And
Yeah.
it's suddenly where you're in a different movie.
Yeah. It's a very light movie in a lot of ways, Big
Yeah.
Sleep. But I mean, central to it is this weird perversion of like underground pornography, which at the time was really scandalous, I guess.
Yeah.
And so that gives it that kind of morbid thing, which I love about it, but it's true that, what did Marlowe do for the DA before before the movies about him started? What was his job at the DA? Was he an investigator?
He's an investigator because
Gotcha.
the DAs have their own detectives who go off and check things, like, I need this check.
Right.
Yeah.
But I guess, I mean, my question was the way that Dick Powell is the kind of guy who I thought might have been a lawyer before this. You know what I mean? But I mean that, I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, it's almost like a choice, but it's like you could you could say, I'm a detective. I used to work for the DA's office.
Right.
And a certain kind of guy, you'd be like, oh, were you on the law side of stuff? Whereas Bogey clearly was
so handsome, and you think of all people who used to be lawyers as incredibly good-looking guys.
I don't want to talk about looks how men look anymore. I'm uncomfortable.
After talking about how attractive
I would completely sleep with Robert Mitchum over this guy.
Okay, well, there we go.
But yeah, I mean, I mean, and it's just a style. It's a flavor. I was surprised by it because Dick Powell's energy is like, clearly his training is, like, hey, let's go like dancing, singing, like MC, everything's great. He was born with a martini in his hand, this guy, and I was just surprised. And then after I read up about it and heard he fought to do it, and it was his first dramatic role, good for you,
Oh, so you're finally giving him some props.
Yes. Okay. I didn't mean to be completely negative. I'm just saying that you came out swinging on Robert Mitchum. And I love Robert Mitchum.
Yeah. Okay. I love Robert Mitchum too. I have loved him. Is it Rio Lobo or Rio Bravo that which one of those?
He's in Lobo.
Love him in that. Great.
It's not Rio Bravo. I know that. Night of the Hunter.
Yeah.
Farewell, My Lovely. Wonderful. He's won a lot of wonderful things. What about like Edward Dmytryk? Have you seen other Edward Dmytryk movies? I just like saying Dmytryk.
You like saying Dmytryk? Yes, Back to Bataan.
Right. Yeah. He made a lot of movies, not a bajillion movies that I like. Left Hand of God was a big one, right, with Bogey.
Well, and then he had a bad blacklisting.
Well, he's got a lot. There's it needs to be said. He did not. He's a lot of people. He made a lot of enemies.
Yeah.
Made a lot of enemies. What's weird is that he actually went to prison, right?
Yep. And then talked.
It's like, you're already there, man. Just
hold out. Yeah.
You're not going to work anyway, obviously. And I don't think.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's too bad. So I didn't,
well, I want to give one thing I want to note is last week in Woman on the Run, we spoke quite a bit about Joan Shanley.
Yes.
So before we completely leave Farewell, My Lovely, do you remember in the early scene when he finds the young girl he's looking for at the beginning of Farewell, My Lovely, before he meets Moose? In the dance hall, do you remember the blonde that he's the big blonde who he's dancing with in the dance hall?
Yeah.
Joan Shanley.
That's Joan Shanley.
Again.
Who played a very drunk lady blonde at a bar. Yeah. That's crazy. So that's
nuts that
she was doing noir movies in California for 30 years, 40 years.
And then we have both of us, 1 degree of separation from somebody in a very small role in Murder, My Sweet. Did anybody pop out at you?
I'm embarrassed to say that they didn't.
The elevator operator in Murder, My Sweet was Shimon Ruskin, who was in Enter Laughing with Mom and Dad in
Get out of here. Oh my goodness. I'm looking at him right now. Look at this guy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very unpopular mustache choice for him in this photograph. However. Yeah, the toothbrush mustache.
Yeah.
Not a thing you should do.
Yeah, Shimon Ruskin. And I think I met him a couple of times when I was a wee lad.
There you go. Well, I'll tell you who I never met, but I wish I had in this movie is Claire Trevor.
Which one was she? Because I wish I met Anne Shirley.
Okay. Well, you have different reasons for this than I do.
Okay.
I don't.
All right. You're artist. You're talking art.
I'm talking about things that are responsible and creative. And please.
I wanted to meet Anne Shirley because this was her last movie, and I would have encouraged her to expand on her body of work.
She was really good. She's really good, and sad that she. Well, I don't think it's that. I think she wanted to quit. I think she didn't want to be an actor anymore.
She's done what she done.
Yeah. She worked with Dick Powell. Where do you go? Where do you go from there? I'm sorry. I've waited for 30 episodes to do that.
You almost made scotch come out of my nose. Oh, that was rough.
Oh, I'm so proud of myself right now. Oh, that's great.
Oh, you got me.
Claire, excuse me. Claire Trevor was Helen Grail, the blonde, more of the femme fatale in this, and she's really great. You remember her in Stagecoach?
Oh wow,
that's her in Stage. She's the female lead, his love interest in that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I didn't put that together.
She's really great. She reminds me. She's got like a little bit of a Judy Holliday thing going on with her. It reminds me a little of Madeline Kahn too. I love her. It's so funny. The first time we meet her in this movie, she was sitting in that reading chair, that big wingback chair.
Right.
And the way she was sitting in the chair, she had a leg folded under her, but I didn't know that. I thought she had one leg. I thought she had one leg. And what's so strange is that it really, you only see one leg. And then she kind of
bring a photograph of this. You didn't clip a photograph.
Well, now that the podcast is a thing, I thought rely less on the visual and describe these things. But okay. what's funny about it is that you can't even see in the photograph though, because it just looks like she has one leg. It's just you don't see the other leg.
Right.
And she comes in and looks at Dick Powell, and Dick Powell looks at her, and then he kind of looks her up and down, and it looks like he's looking at the fact that she only has one leg, and then he looks up at her again, and he has this kind of strange expression on his face. And I thought that this whole thing was setting up that this woman
has one leg.
And then she just gets up out of her chair, and the spell was over. The spell was broken.
And that was the big dramatic surprise in the movie to you, was that she had two legs.
I was like, I thought we were watching a David Lynch movie, but apparently not.
All right. Okay.
So that was funny. Anyway, I liked her a lot.
All right. Can we talk a little bit about, there's a character that shows up. The whole thing starts. Well, the plot starts because this guy Moose, who just got out of prison, wants to find his old girlfriend who he hasn't spoken to in 7 years, and Marlowe starts trying to look for her and can't find her. And then a whole different plot starts, or what we think is a different plot. At the end of the movie, we find out it's one plot. And what I remember was interesting is we read this book in college in my critical theory, in one of my critical theory classes. And what's fascinating about the book, and this is why I brought up existentialism at the beginning of this, is that there's this idea in the book of that it is the act of investigating that creates the thing that is investigated. That you think about the plot in this movie, that if Marlowe didn't start looking for the woman, there would be no murders for him to solve. It's a response to him investigating that every murder in the whole plot begins because he's investigating. And so it's this idea of that it's almost a Schrodinger's cat type of, like the not Schrodinger's cat.
The Cat in the Hat.
Eisenstein's
cat.
the Eisenberg principle, the act of examining.
Oh, the observer impacts the experiment.
Impacts the experiment, and that's very much alive.
That's totally fascinating. That's really cool because I was noticing. I mean, it's a thing with Marlowe, and it's even a thing in The Big Sleep. But here, it's really present, where he doesn't really succeed at things. He kind of falls into stuff. He gets hit on the head and knocked out 3 times. Like that happens. Like it just happens to him.
As does Zach Brandis in my book. Get the crap kicked out.
That's right. That's right. It's a classic move, and. He's really behind the curve on this, and he's investigating he's trying to get himself out of going to jail, like, because they think the cops are after him. Yeah. And so it in a weird way is it, like you're pointing out, it kind of is like even Chandler was writing a deconstruction of the mythology even then. Yeah. Because what's visually amazing about this movie, and I don't know, because I haven't read the book and now I got to, but the fact that it starts, that the movie ends with him, after he stumbles through all of this, he's blind. The fact that he's literally got his eyes covered at the end. Yeah. It's visually this incredibly weird thing that the detective...
Is that in Farewell, My Lovely, the other one as well?
Didn't get to the end. I fell asleep like 20 minutes before.
I don't remember if it's in the book. But one thing I wanted to go is that, so this first guy who comes to see Marlowe is, and I love that this movie was made in 1944. There's so many things that happen in both this movie and in The Big Sleep that watching stuff that back then was so crystal clear without them ever saying it. And now we say everything, Yeah,
everything.
This character, Marriott, is gay. And the way they drive that home over and over again, without ever saying any, what's the deal? Blackmail, right? Saying the guy, they must be blackmailing you because you're gay. And he says, "Oh, you just want me to go along with you and hold your hand?" I take offense,
Yeah. Well, they also talk about, which is an unfortunate way they used to describe gay people as having perfume on. So it would be like,
he's got perfume on.
Yeah.
They say his interest in clothes and jewelry came easy. Somebody says about it. It's and then the way they talk about sex in the movies, well, I love Sylvia Miles, and it's both movies. Sylvia Miles, Mrs. Florian in both movies, has that great line, "When I like a guy, the ceiling's the limit." It's so sad. It's so sad. But the only his two steps a little stiff, they say about the old guy, about her old husband.
Yeah.
His two steps a little stiff. And then even something like when she says, "I think I'll put some powder on my nose," which is a way of saying I have to pee. He says, "You already got powder on your nose." So he's like saying, don't shine me on. You're going to take a pee.
Yeah.
It's and then she was giving me the kind of look, which in the book is she gave me a smile I could feel in my hip pocket.
Such a great line.
Great line. These damn things, said before, these damn things are always up around your neck, when she's talking about her legs. In The Big Sleep, in the scene with the other bookstore scene.
Oh my God. Those two scenes. That is the
what's her name? I'm blanking on her name.
Cheekiest scene in the world.
And it starts raining, and he says, "I got some good rye," and she says something about you don't want to go out across the street. And he says, "I'd rather get wet in here."
Yeah, it's really like that scene is shameless in terms of how.
And then the taxi driver, the woman taxi driver,
it's amazing.
Says, "Give me a call," And he says, "Day or night?" And she says, "Night's better. I work during the day."
Great stuff. So a carry over into James Bond. Like in no other character in movies is it just assumed that any woman that he meets is just going to be totally attracted to this guy.
Yeah.
It's what was really interesting about it to me was that that Bogey got away with that stuff, because Dick Powell is traditionally, I guess, a handsomer guy than Bogey is, but Bogey just had that grit that it was pretty attractive.
Yeah,
pretty damn attractive. Oh, those scenes are so funny. I love them.
Who was the woman in the bookstore? It was a big famous person.
Well, you want me to look it up here?
No, I'm
because the computer, if I turn on the computer,
Dorothy Malone. It was Dorothy Malone in that one scene in the bookstore. And I have to rip that scene for my classes. The double entendre and the subtext is just
no, a lot of that has to come from the books, because Chandler's stuff was super witty and super funny, right?
Yeah.
I mean, those quips that he'd have in the narrations, those were narrations, kind of like his running inner thoughts during the books, right?
Yeah. And you know what he said about Hemingway, who I think came like from the same place, the same town or something like that, or they were born and grew up near each other.
Oh, really? Oh,
Chandler said about Hemingway, or Marlowe, I think, says about Hemingway. He says something like, "Yeah, he's a guy who says the same thing over and over again until you think it's good."
Oh, wow. Those fighting words.
I read something really interesting about somebody said something about Chandler, where when people talk about him being a hack, they're like, no, he was the first one to do it. It was the people who came after him and were imitating him who were hacks.
Yeah. I remember being super surprised as a teenager reading, I guess, Big Sleep, and just how cool it is.
Yeah.
Still to this day, it still holds up.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're talking about Moose Malloy, who's a great figure, an amazing character.
Oh,
and so beautifully played by Mike Mazurki, who is he's one of the largest human beings you've ever seen in this movie. He's gigantic, and the funny part is, a lot of it's how they shot him, because he's only 2 inches taller than Dick Powell in real life.
wow.
And Dick Powell looks like completely dwarfed by him. So Dick Powell was like in a trench working throughout all the scenes with him.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you know the trick that they did in the first shot where he shows
that
up?
Mirror shot, that window reflection is so cool. You got to set that up for people. It's amazing.
Okay. Powell is in his office at night. It's dark. He is looking out his window, which is and there are neon lights outside flashing. And
he's in downtown LA. You're assuming, I guess,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. And he's looking out the window and lights are flashing. And when the lights come on, you see the lights outside the window. And when the lights go off, you see the reflection of the inside of you don't see anything because his office is dark. And he's just sitting, you see his reflection in the window, and then the lights outside blink on and you see the neon lights outside. And then the lights go off and you see his reflection in the window. And then the lights blink on and then they blink off and you see this immense man standing behind him. Just huge. And I have the shot that I can show. And here it is. This phenomenal shot of what appears behind him, and he sees that reflection in the window.
It's fantastic.
But do you know how they did that shot?
I read that they had to bring another mirror in. They couldn't use the windows of the set because they couldn't get the scope right.
They couldn't get him big enough, so there's another just sheet of glass between the desk and the camera.
Mm-hmm.
To make the image that much.
And Powell is pretending to look at it.
Yeah. Because he's not actually seeing a reflection.
Yeah.
And they also, I read that they constructed the sets with sloping ceilings, so that as he walked towards the camera, he seemed to get bigger.
Really, really big. Yeah, they had to do that stuff. And I mean, I think he's 6'4" and he's plenty big as it is, but they just make this guy look unstoppable. And that's the great thing about him, and he's somebody who Marlowe ends up kind of taking a weird liking to in this strange way,
and taking care of,
or like pities him or something. There's something kind of tragic about the guy, and because he feels for him, I think, because he's really in love. Like he's actually in love with this girl. He's dying. He's just dying to get this girl back. And Marlowe's also a romantic. Secretly.
Yeah.
I mean, you get the feeling
both of the movies have rom-com endings, which you
right. But you get the feeling like he's a guy that lost love.
Yeah.
Marlowe. It's never discussed, I think, but you feel like he knows what it is and then it lost out, which I guess is Bogey's whole vibe, Casablanca on through.
Yeah.
But anyway, he takes this liking to him, and Moose is just a force of nature. I mean, he can't be stopped. He'll go into a bar and take out like 20 people just because she's just that big. Great character. So, I mean, Mike Mazurki, we've seen him age in movies. You've seen this guy in a million things. I mean, a lot of movies, like Some Like It Hot, Mad World, Donovan's Reef. He's in Dick Tracy. He was working up until 1990.
Wow.
So great character. Who else did you like?
Shimon Ruskin as the elevator man.
Yeah, the famous elevator scene.
Yeah, took the whole thing. I loved the woman who played Mrs. Florian in the second movie.
She's amazing.
She was terrific.
Yeah.
I loved Anne Shirley. I loved Dorothy Malone, was spectacular. And the fella who played Grail
Great.
kind of broke my heart.
He's wonderful.
He had that monologue about loving his wife and being too old, and that's a hell of a monologue.
It's beautiful. It really is. And I was thinking about how interesting it is that Chandler seems to be really into that guy, that character, because he kind of appears in The Big Sleep also.
Yep.
An older,
as the
older guy who's kind of at the end and is trying to do the right thing, and somehow Marlowe loves these characters, and he's the same kind of person. Marlowe just takes a liking to him.
Yeah.
Beautiful stuff. Also, Otto Kruger, I mean, the bad guy in this is show-stoppingly great to me. I love him. Can we play? See, this is are you on a segue mood? Because I have a thing we can.
You go ahead and segue.
Okay, so this is a little interchange that I love. This is the audio. No, this is the visual clip.
Yes.
This is a little interchange between Dick Powell as Marlowe and the big baddie in this, who's this urbane, holistic doctor, creepy, weird guy who collects jade and is after the jade.
Yeah. And we're going to apologize to all of the people on the podcast for this. But here it is.
Sorry if I've upset your theories about me, which I imagine are much more elaborate, but...
My theory is pretty simple. It goes like this. Marriott was a blackmailer of women. It was good. Women liked him around. His interest in clothes and jewelry came easy. But he wasn't the whole works. Somebody told him which women to cultivate, so he could load them up with ice, take them out dancing, then slip to the phone and tell the boys where to operate.
And that is your picture of Marriott and me. I am slightly disgusted and very disappointed.
My favorite line in the movie. I laughed so hard. He is amazing. He's the template for all the Bond villains. He's the template. It's like that delivery. No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. It's the same thing.
You know what I noticed watching this clip is you've never seen Dick Powell and David Hiller in the same room at the same time.
That's true. And then that reminded me of this clip I just like to play. Like this is how great this early version of it. Listen, this is from RoboCop.
Yeah, this is just an audio clip. Here we go.
Dick, I'm very disappointed.
This is the first thing I thought of. That line.
Very disappointed.
I'm slightly disgusted and very disappointed.
Yeah. Another thing that I thought was really cool is I think that Rod Serling, the opening sequence to The Twilight Zone, is a direct steal from the drug sequence in this.
He might be right. That drug, this movie goes crazy. There are things that happen in this movie, including this drug sequence, that you really really surprising.
The drug sequence where he's in space and going through the doors, and they're getting smaller and smaller, and he's got to crouch down and get through the doors. And
they slip him a Mickey in this movie. That is the worst. It's the worst. What's amazing about it is that for a hero, they put him through hell in this movie, and his experience of being
morphine or heroin in the book, I think.
They just call it a heavy narcotic episode in this movie.
Yeah, but they're injecting him, and I think it's
I think it's got to be more than morphine, because morphine would make you probably just feel good and then go to sleep. And this was, I'm sure, like LSD or something.
Yeah, they're really
because he can't walk. He can't, and like there's a good 10 minutes of the movie that just has him dealing with the after effects of being drugged by this, whatever it is. It's really messed up. And those sequences are scary. And that was very like the Twilight Zone.
And I was surprised that they didn't put a Busby Berkeley dance.
No, it's like they were just going to start.
Slip it right in there.
Yeah. Just go to a high overhead shot.
Why am I dancing?
A high overhead shot.
Yeah.
And everybody spinning around on the floor.
Oh, you know who else I adored? Elijah Cook.
Oh, you're talking about The Big Sleep now?
Oh, that's right. Sorry, I moved from one movie to the other. I take it back. We're not there yet.
Elijah Cook is so great. He's fantastic.
But
you know what? This is interesting. Talking about the difference between these things. There was. Here's where, for me, the only thing that I'd be like lacking in this movie, and you know, and that's only because I have a preconception about what for me I really dig about noir. So how the Maltese Falcon in the Maltese Falcon is like even though it's a fake,
right,
it has a cast a spell over everybody, right? It's like this object and the fever to get it is an infection that everybody gets, and there's something really almost a horror, like there's something almost like Lovecraftian about it in a way, like the way that greed works on the characters or people. What's interesting is that that's pretty much lacking in this movie completely. And it's not that kind of noir to rely on mood and that kind of atmosphere, because the jade, there's a similar thing. It's a necklace that everybody's looking for that's priceless or worth like over $100,000 back in 44.
Right.
And it's a special kind of jade, and it's talked about a lot, and there's no sex appeal for it. It's it's just money. Even to the Amthor, the guy who's trying to get it, he just wants it because he's a collector, not because it has any special weird kind of power.
Right.
And that's mirrored by Marlowe's, the fact that Marlowe could keep the necklace. He could become a rich man at the end of this movie and hands it to the cops at the end. And he's like, you deal with it. I don't want it.
Yeah.
He could take that scot-free.
Yeah, it was given to him.
But I mean, the cops couldn't take it as evidence or anything even. It was like, fine.
Yeah. It's all done.
So there's like, that's the difference with, okay, there's two different detectives, because Bogart's playing Sam Spade in the Maltese Falcon.
Right.
But it's interesting how there's just an incredibly different energy behind the Sam Spade character and the Marlowe character. And then the Mike Hammer character is also equally like different than those two.
Now I have to go watch Maltese Falcon again tomorrow.
You know, it's so good. I think I may too. I may do that too. You know, for a movie that isn't as stylishly made as The Big Sleep is, you know, they didn't have the budget. It doesn't have great action in it. This movie, it doesn't like have the thrills and spills, the shootouts, the punch outs. They're not really great.
The lighting is spectacular.
It has some of the most arresting, weird imagery in it. It really does. And
every shot looks like those old George Hurrell headshots from that period of, you know, where it's just every shot is gorgeous. And there's some lighting that I pulled of this sequence of Anne Shirley in Let me make sure I'm pulling up the right one first. In the nightclub, when he meets Anne Shirley in the nightclub, and she's leaning forward at the table, and we're looking at her. I want to see the whole picture. There we go. So this is what we see. And then she leans back.
Mm-hmm.
We get that instead of that.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah, the great use of shadows and light. And again, like it's not a movie that's like, I don't think overly picked apart in terms of how it's made, but that's why I was surprised at that opening, that shot with Moose Malloy in the window, and that great dissolve from the beginning from the water cooler into that next sequence, and then the bandages on his face. That the movie opens with him being interrogated by cops, and his face is like his eyes and most of his head are bandaged completely,
and we have no idea why. What's going on.
And it's weird. It's got that kind of like, it's got that in those scenes. It's got that quality that Kiss Me Deadly had, that kind of pop art, weird modern quality to it. And and it's because I think of Dick Powell and how like kind of upbeat he is, how kind of like he's like kind of a lounge lizard, Marlowe, which is fine. It's just that it surprises you how many really dark things happen in this movie, because the leading man is kind of a light-hearted guy. Like, for instance, like when he goes out to protect that guy, Miles Mander, who plays not Miles Mander. Who is it? Lindsay Marriott,
right?
Who needs protection that night.
Right.
He drives out in the middle of nowhere, and he's going to be kind of his bodyguard for the night when he's got to make this drop, and he gets knocked unconscious, and then he wakes up again, and he's like in a daze, and it's the middle of the night, and the car's still there, and he starts to narrate, like he gets and Powell does great with the narration in this movie. Yeah. Great voiceover. And he comes upon the car and the dead body of the guy who he was trying to help. Great job, Marlowe. Like, he's just messing everything up.
Yeah.
And the guy's dead, and he describes the body, and he says, like, you realize what he says makes you realize the guy's been shot in the face like several times. And he says, the way he puts it, about it was either an amateur or somebody trying to make it look like an amateur, because nobody would, that's the only reason someone would. What does he say? Like,
it's a sap. He wasn't shot. He was beaten in the head with a sap, which is a lead-filled sock.
Oh, okay.
So he was beaten till his face was just a pump.
Oh, because in the second movie, the guy's shot 3 times in the face.
Right.
And I don't know what the book is referring to.
I'll have to check the book.
But the fact that it's extremely violent, it's extremely unnervingly violent, and it's just like, you expect Bogey to confront something like that and deal with it, but you don't expect Dick Powell to.
Yeah.
The other thing that's kind of cool about Powell doing this is that you realize how much courage that he has to have, because he's not really that equipped for this. He doesn't seem like a tough guy.
No. Whereas as Marlowe in The Big Sleep he's got that compartment.
He can handle it all.
Yeah.
This guy looks like he's just like, well, I'll try it. Like, I don't know if I can do this. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But what can I tell you? I loved him.
Was this your favorite of the noir bunch?
This one?
Yeah, no, that we've seen.
I'd still go with The Big Sleep over.
Well, we didn't do that officially, though.
We didn't do it officially. Of the bunch that we've seen,
yeah.
No, I'd say it's between this and Mike Hammer.
Okay.
Kiss Me Deadly.
Okay.
You know the movie I would really love to see? I would love to see Murder My Sweet with Ralph Meeker playing Philip Marlowe.
Yeah.
With that Mike Hammer guy playing Philip Marlowe would be pretty great.
I
Because
mean,
that's somebody I'd really want to hang out with.
I get you, man. I mean, so in other words, we feel similarly. I mean, like, I think it would, and I'm not even saying, because Dick Powell made a case for this. Like, I wasn't on board at first. I was like, wait a minute, what's this peppermint flavor in my my chocolate chip
it's like,
cookie? I don't know.
It's like I love tuna salad.
Okay.
Right. And I've made you some pretty great tuna.
Well, you're a master of tuna salad.
Yeah.
You know more about tuna than
tuna salad. Mom gets this tuna salad that has grapes in it.
Okay.
Which I'm sure it's great. But I think one of the things she most loves about it is that she can put half a container of that. She can get a container of that and eat half of it and put the other half in the fridge. And she knows without a doubt that when she goes to the fridge the next day, it is still going to be there.
She doesn't like it that much either, but she knows at least she'll have something to eat.
I'm not gonna scarf down the rest of the tuna salad with the grapes in it.
I agree.
And that's the difference I would say between
whole grapes in the tuna salad.
They're sliced in half.
Okay.
So they're basically whole grapes.
Yeah.
So that's the difference between Dick Powell's Philip Marlowe and Bogey's Philip Marlowe.
Yeah.
Dick Powell's Philip Marlowe has some grapes.
But you won't eat that at all. If it was a food, this you enjoyed. I know. I mean, you have to come up with a better analogy. Because I think the grapes are in the Farewell, My Lovely that you couldn't even watch.
Yeah, I didn't think that was grapes. I thought Farewell, My Lovely with Robert Mitchum was my kind of tuna salad, the one that I make that's really good, but it's been in the fridge for about 10 days.
Okay.
And then maybe left out in the sun.
Okay. Move. Okay. That's a bad meal. That's not a good sandwich.
I had a tuna salad sandwich at Smiler's in 1983. Fall of 1983, my second year of law school, I had a tuna salad sandwich at Smiler's on Amsterdam, around 66th Street,
by West Side. Yeah, okay.
And then lost it on the front steps of St. Paul's Church on Columbus and 60th.
Well, that's what you take that St. Paul's Church.
5 blocks later. So it was a tuna salad that had turned. But I remember, this is 36 years ago. I still remember this experience.
Those are indelible. They're the moments that they never go away.
So that's how I felt about Farewell, My Lovely.
Well, I have yet to, I don't think I feel that way about, well, I do. I feel that way about some of the movies we've seen, but I didn't feel that way about this one. I get, part of me, I guess, like, it's such a curiosity. I mean, you have to give it that. It is an odd curiosity of a movie. And
why did they make this?
I'm always curious. I don't think they gave it a lot of money. I think they were just like, let's see if, whatever, try it out.
And then they made another one. They made The Big Sleep 2 years later.
The same team?
It was Mitchum. I don't know if it was Dick Richards.
Did you ever see to redeem the this terrible vibe that we've got going about Mitchum? I'm a superstitious man. What have you seen the Yakuza?
I think I saw it long ago. Is that what we're watching next week?
It might be an interesting palate cleanser for us. To get out of Noir Town and to swing from branch to branch, like we've said, to go like swing over here. We might swing from Mitchum to another late period 70s Mitchum that's actually, like, I think, really cool.
All right. So that's what we're going to see if we can do now is branch swinging. Like there was this in this movie, and let's grab that and swing to the next person.
Six branches of Kevin Bacon.
Six. Yeah, okay. Absolutely. All right. So next week is going to be the Yakuza.
All right. I know that we should just see. Let's just see if it's available for people if they want to.
While you're checking to see if it's available, I just want to give a quick shout out also to in the Big Sleep, the long scene with Betty Bacall in his office that goes on for what 37 minutes.
Play.
It's like a scene in a play.
I just need to say that I
hung out with Betty.
I
Bacall.
hung out with Lauren Bacall, and I there aren't that many things in my life that I look back with and go like, that was pretty cool. Like I know, and that's not saying I've been very fortunate and have done a lot of cool things, or been around cool things. I've done nothing cool.
Yeah, no, we haven't done anything cool.
I've just been around cool things.
We were next to cool things when they happened.
Getting to hang out with her and actually get to talk to her, know her a little bit was honestly, I mean, I just can't believe that ever happened. She did a play with Amelia, and she also worked with Adam. Yeah, didn't she? What did they do together? Do you remember what they did?
I think she did a couple of episodes of Chicago Hope.
Oh yeah, you're right. Anyway,
or Go Ho, as Adam
just amazing woman, and so I mean, such movie star. When she turned in her first shot in The Big Sleep, she turns around and it's just like, movie star. There's no other way you can express this. It's just insane.
Yeah. No, it's like Audrey Hepburn in Roman Holiday.
You're just like
18 and this was their first movie.
It's not possible.
Just forget it. It's craziness. All right. So it is available, the Yakuza?
The Yakuza is available on Amazon, and it's available in my apartment because I also have it on a disc format.
Okay, so I'm going to be getting it on Amazon and watching it, and we're going to talk about that next week. So tell your friends about this podcast because it's fun. I listened to it.
Matthew can attest to it.
These guys are fun.
He's not just on the show. He's a fan of the show.
I'm not just on it. I'm the fan.
I'm the fan. We have an Instagram account. You can follow us there, and new shows were announced there for sure. Also on Facebook, but I'm an Instagram guy, so
yeah. And Anthony puts up very funny graphics on the Instagram.
I try to. I do try to do some sly things when people aren't looking. And maybe we'll get, I'm hoping that Adam was on a hiatus soon and we can I'd love to hear how things went on his show. Maybe he can come on the show and tell us how things are in show business.
In fancy land.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Great.
Well, thank you for joining us, everybody. And we will probably see you next week.
Yakuza time.
Great. Good night.
Good night.